So what's the Atlanta housing market like right now? Well, last month was December. I was working with some buyers and we had a ton of great choices. We saw a lot of houses that had been sitting on the market for a month or two. We got under contract. There were no competing offers. It was normal. This is a direct result of the interest rate hikes that came through last year. And this is exactly what you would expect when interest rates go up. You're going to have more choices, lower prices, and less competition. Happy New Year. This is Parker, and I wanted to give you some insights into the Atlanta housing market and some on-the-ground intel about what is happening right now. And stay tuned. I'm going to give you my predictions for the rest of 2023. The key word this year is going to be rebalancing. I've talked many times about how these super low interest rates were driving home prices through the roof. It's almost axiomatic when interest rates go down, prices are going to go up. And when interest rates go up, prices are going to come down. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now. Since interest rates went up into the mid 6% range, we've seen a steady increase in the supply of homes for sale and a steady decrease in the demand from the buyer side. So we're rebalancing. We're finding that balance point where the supply and the demand even out. Higher interest rates force buyers to think more about the cost of borrowing. So rather than having a $450,000 buyer, looking in the 600 bracket because their purchasing power has been artificially inflated by these super low rates, they're actually shopping in that 450 bracket where they should be. While inventory is starting to balance out in Atlanta, it is still in somewhat short supply. One of the biggest long-term problems we face is the number of people who refinanced during the pandemic into these super low interest rates. I recently spoke with a woman in Roswell. She's an empty nester, kids are all off at college, and she's living in a 3,500 square foot house by herself. And that's a lot of house. That'd be plenty of house for a family of 5 or 6. These kind of houses are in really high demand right now as well. The problem is she refinanced into an interest rate below 3% during the pandemic. And now if she's looking to downsize, what's actually going to happen is she could go and buy a smaller house, but with the higher interest rates now, her mortgage payment isn't going to get any lower. So with the smaller house, she might save some dollars around the margins on, utilities and maintenance costs, but she's not going to save any money on her monthly mortgage payment. So ultimately, she decided not to sell. And this is a problem I'm seeing again and again with these super low interest rates. People who would otherwise move into a smaller house because of the changes in their life are deciding, well, it's going to cost me just as much for a small house as it does for this current house. I've seen many examples of this around town and also in some of the internet forums I'm on. Let's take a look at this. This guy says, I will likely hold on to my single-family home purchased in 2019 at a 2.75 interest rate forever. I plan on moving, but it makes no sense to sell it. What he means is that the cost of borrowing for him is so ridiculously low that there's no incentive for him to sell the house. This is going to be an ongoing problem that will take years to work out. The homeowners sitting on these super low interest rates know they can plug a renter into this house and get a good return on their investment. So rather than being incentivized to sell the house and move on, they're actually incentivized to keep the house and become landlords. So what are my predictions for 2023? As I said, we're rebalancing here, and I see interest rates hovering right around the 6% range for the rest of the year. I have talked to some of my mortgage people, and they're predicting rates in the mid-5s by the end of 2023. Which might be nice and would certainly bring a little bit of a boost in the demand, but I don't think we want to go back to where we've got interest rates in the 3s and we've just created so much demand that it's driving prices through the roof. That's just not good for anybody. Inflation has started to cool off, and that was the point of the interest rate hikes to begin with. They wanted to, douse the fire, cool it off a little bit, but not extinguish it completely. And it feels like that's where we are, at least in Atlanta. The thing to know about rates in the 6% range is that this is actually normal. This is what it should be like. When my wife and I bought our first house In the late 90s, we actually paid closer to 7%. When we bought our second house in the early 2000s, it was right around 6%. The key point is that these houses were affordable, and what we've really seen over the last 20 years is this steady erosion of interest rates and the desire to kind of artificially stimulate the economy is what you always hear. The result for the average home buyer has been that home prices have just gone up and up and up. We've got to get that under control at some point. The more the Fed tries to juice the economy with super cheap money, the more prices are going to go up on everything, especially housing. So it's to everyone's long-term advantage to have interest rates that more accurately reflect the cost of borrowing. So as always, if you're thinking about making the move to the Atlanta area, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the box below. I'd love to talk to you. Thanks.